so unhappy. They're always going to want change compared to decades ago. But I think that's what's happening here is that Americans are unhappy and they believe that Kamala is something new. So what does that tell us? It's
No,
speaks pretty
no.
loudly. They don't blame Kamala for what's happening now. They don't blame her for the Biden administration.
It doesn't matter. It's just not, it doesn't matter. It's not deep. Americans, especially Americans on the left, okay, they are unhappy. They do not like a lot about the country, but they like Donald Trump less. They will take any condition, including a deterioration of their own lives, over Donald Trump. They would support Joe Biden when he was basically almost a dead body over Donald Trump. And if you press any of them, and I have friends on the left, like Kamala is a huge improvement over what they'll tell you they would support to defeat Donald Trump. They would take anything and anybody. You could put a dog on the ticket and they'd vote for, well, I mean, a dog would probably be one of their favorite because everybody loves a dog. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? They would take anything over Donald Trump, and they have illustrated to you that over and over and over. So, of course, Kamala is going to be a big improvement. Go ahead, Two-A-Days.
No, I was just with a bunch of liberal people over the weekend. They were saying the same thing. I was like, oh, what do you think of Kamala? They're like, we don't care. Anyone but Trump. Doesn't matter. We hate him. Anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all. They don't care. They don't have one positive thing to say about Kamala, but they do not have anything nice to say about Trump, and that's all that matters to
And
them.
if you said to them, what do you feel about inflation, though? Inflation, that's bad. They're like, yeah, it's not good.
Doesn't
not
matter.
Donald Trump.
Nope, exactly.
Right, doesn't matter.
Nope.
Not Donald Trump. What about the fact that we're on the brink of nuclear war? What if we're in nuclear war? There's a nuclear war. Doesn't matter. Not Donald Trump. That's what it's, I have 100% confidence that would be the reaction.
Yeah, I disagree. I see it differently because it's not liberal voters that matter. It's the moderate voters that usually decide these elections. Here's what I mean. When Biden was trailing so badly in the polling, most of the numbers said it wasn't newfound support for Trump. It was that there were some moderates that would vote for Biden, otherwise said, we're not going to show up for voting. I believe we were on track for 55% voter turnout. The number is now at 62%, which would be a record. I think what's happening is moderate voters are very excited about the prospects of Kamala Harris. I think that's where it comes to them not liking the state of the country, where before they're like, well, we weren't happy under Trump, we aren't happy under Biden, we're just not going to vote.
Maybe I don't know. Everyone says they're moderate. I don't know anyone or many people who are moderate on Donald Trump. Literally moderate. How do you feel about Donald Trump? Don't really have an opinion. You mean many people like that? You know?
No, right. No, that's true. That's true. I don't know exactly when these polls say like independent.
But everybody tells you they're moderate.
Right.
Oh, I'm moderate. How do you feel about Donald Trump? I don't really care.
I'm a fiscal,
Never met that
I'm a
guy.
fiscal conservative. That's all I am. Fiscally conservative.
All right. We're going to hang around one more time with Outkick's Bobby Burack as we're going to break down what would a debate be like between Vice President Kamala Harris and presidential candidate Kamala Harris next on The Will Cain Show. Danny Maldonado on YouTube says, the reason Kamala Harris doesn't list her policies on her website is so nothing is in writing and can change up or flip her policies as she caters to voters. It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and Fox News Facebook page. Always on demand by subscribing at Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. We're still hanging out with Outkick.com's Bobby Burack today here on the Will Cain Show. I said this weekend, Bobby, on Fox and Friends. Right now, this enthusiasm, this honeymoon period for Kamala Harris is being buoyed by the idea that she never has to account for anything. She's faced no tough questions. She sat down for no interviews. I think she's going on 3 weeks now, something like 20 I don't know. We're getting close to 20 days, really, where she has been the presumptive nominee and nothing, no need to account for anything, including yet, she says she's going to this week, put out what her policies would be as president. So it's an entire campaign on vibes, just on vibes. Like, hey, feels good, looks good, baby. Let's do this. But if you really dig into who Kamala Harris is and what she said, she was the most liberal voting senator in the United States Senate. That's her voting record. Then when she was vice president, she was the tying vote, Bobby. I believe it's like a record-setting 33 times. And the votes that she single-handedly then made that swayed American policy did things like bring in the Inflation Reduction Act, which did the exact opposite, which increased inflation. And she's been pro and anti-fracking. She's been all over the place on crime. Kamala Harris, at some point, I have to think, I don't think she can go 3 months without ever having to face the music on who exactly she is and how exactly she'd govern as president.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, back to that football coach analogy, that new coach, you can win the first couple of weeks with your base rallying behind you, but eventually you have to perform. At some point, Kamala Harris is going to have to step outside this honeymoon and actually talk about what she would do as a president and maybe hopefully answer for her many flaws previously. Yeah, it's such a bizarre thing, like not talking to the media. Also, what is she so afraid of? Like, you don't think if she sat down with George Stephanopoulos, he wouldn't butter her up and ask her some very advantageous questions? This makes me think that there are people advising her that know how unlikable she is, how kind of a clown she is, that they're telling her, hey, don't speak to anybody. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, that she is just not talking when the media has been so in her favor.
Well, it makes sense to me because it's going well. I mean, and all she has to do is
Well,
if we're going to just kill the football analogy, run the clock out as long as you possibly can. And the media has her back. So why, I mean, when she gets to that point of having to interact with the media, then she'll sit down in a situation where it won't be adversarial. But there's no even need to do that for now because it's all working out well. Here's an example, I think, when it comes to policies and the way she's being covered by the media. This is fascinating. This is CBS News. Okay, this is on June 14th. Donald Trump puts out his plan on June 9th. No taxes on tips, right? CBS News runs a piece. Former President Trump vows to stop taxing tips, and it would cost the federal government up to $250 billion over 10 years, according to a nonpartisan watchdog group. That's how they approached his new policy proposal. Of course, she copies it very recently. Same location that he announced it, Las Vegas. And this is CBS News, August 12th. Vice President Kamala Harris is rolling out a new policy position saying she'll fight to end taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. Same news organization, 2 months apart. Two different candidates, same policy.
Yeah. I just got thinking, if SNL were still funny, wouldn't that be an SNL segment to have Trump and Harris side by side saying the exact same thing and then having the media cover it differently? I just thought about that. I didn't see that from CBS.
Well, Jonathan Karl, we could show the one, Jonathan Karl, he's ABC, right? He sat down to interview J.D. Vance, and he's given J.D. Vance a hard time. Like, she was never really border czar. If you rewind the clock, 1 year ago, there's Jonathan Karl talking about her as border czar in charge of the border.
Oh, yeah. I mean, remember Axios? They said that no serious outlet had ever used the term border czar. And people look back to a previous story from Axios calling her border czar. Yeah, I mean, these are not serious people at all. It's really brought out the worst of the media, honestly. All of this, like from the fact that they hid Joe Biden's mental state, which people knew, the media knew, they refused to report on it, that they turned on him when they thought not only is he bad for the country, but maybe he can't win the election, to seeing the way they prop up Harris as, I don't know, this female version of Obama with zero baggage. It's so dishonest. It's so predictable, but it certainly should leave even a blacker eye on the state of the press, where they're just openly lying to us and speaking to us like we're fools. And the saddest part is it might be working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She can't reconcile her policies against her past. You earlier in the show, you talked about that moment of high for Donald Trump after the assassination attempt, the RNC. Well, the DNC is next week, which will represent another week of like enthusiasm for Kamala Harris. And here's the tentative schedule for the DNC. President Biden speaks on Monday. Hillary Clinton will speak on Monday. Former President Barack Obama speaks on Tuesday. Former President Bill Clinton speaks on Wednesday. Tim Walz then on Wednesday, and Kamala Harris on Thursday. That is what they'll roll out next week. And we can all talk about, Biden. And Biden will be the low point of that. He will.
Yeah.
They put Biden and Clinton both on Monday. That'll be the low point. It'll only be up from there. That's Hillary Clinton. It'll only be up from there. But it's going to be another week of like buoyed enthusiasm for Kamala Harris with still no scrutiny.
Pelosi is not speaking as of now.
This is not every speaker that's going to speak.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi, by the way, is clearly the power behind the throne. You know, you brought up Rachel Campos-Davies. She thinks it's Barack Obama. She's always saying Barack. I don't think it is Obama. It is Nancy Pelosi. She is the most powerful person in the Democratic Party. She is pulling the strings behind the throne, behind the scenes. She also, by the way, can't complete a coherent sentence like Joe Biden. She's in her 80s. But she is never someone I think you would see necessarily front and center on the stage. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. But her power is behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was on Rachel's side, and I still do think Obama is very, very popular. I think the people who have the money listen to him. George Clooney, and we know once David Axelrod came out against Biden, things really started to move, which I think we predicted on this show. David Axelrod is probably the unofficial spokesman for Obama at this point. They're very, very tight, according to all reports. But yeah, Nancy Pelosi, by all accounts, is the one who really forced Joe Biden out. This right now is her party for whatever reason. It might be best for her not to speak, but continue to control this party kind of out of way and out of sight. I think that would be the best move for her. But you're right. I don't know that putting her front and center helps a lot, but I think a lot of Democrats would want to hear from her because without her, I think Biden might still be the candidate right now.
Yeah, no doubt. She said you can go the hard way or the easy way. She got her way when it came to Joe Biden. All right, it's been a great conversation today with Outkick's Bobby Burke. You can check him out on Outkick. He's also on X. Keep up with all the columns that he is posting. An original thinker, independent thinker, and somebody I encourage you to follow. And we always appreciate having him here on the Will Cain Show. Thank you, Bobby.
Appreciate it, Will, anytime.
Okay, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. And until then, I will see you again next time. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcast and Amazon Prime members. You can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
Hi, everybody. It's Brian Kilmeade. I want you to join me weekdays at 9 a.m. East as we break down the biggest stories of the day with some of the biggest newsmakers and, of course, what you think.
Listen live or get the podcast now at BrianKilmeadShow.com.